Meghan went through Harry's phone, and what she found didn't just shake a marriage, it ripped the illusion clean apart, exposing something far more calculated, far more unsettling, and far more predictable than anyone wants to admit.
Well, Harry has met someone who is his age, with whom he is in love. Meghan found out about it, according to my sources of information.
So it was very hard for me to prove myself, but Harry seemed to fall for it. Hook, line, and sinker. I mean, he believed in me. Hook, line, and sinker.
The moment that detail slipped out, everything changed. Not because of the texts themselves, not even because of the suggestion of another woman, but because of the reaction. No outrage, no heartbreak, just laughter, cold, sharp, unforgiving laughter spreading across the internet like wildfire. Thousands of voices collapsing into one brutal question: who would even want Harry in the first place? And beneath that mockery, something darker was taking shape. A pattern, a timeline, a story that didn't begin with Meghan, didn't begin with Montecito, didn't begin with Netflix or brand deals or curated smiles. This story started long before all of that, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Because before Meghan, there was Chelsea Davy. Not a rumor, not speculation, a real presence. 7 years of something that looked dangerously close to genuine, no cameras needed, no performance required, just quiet, unfiltered reality. The kind that doesn't trend, doesn't sell, doesn't need explaining. She didn't chase the spotlight. She didn't try to reshape anything. She fit into Harry's world without trying to control it. And that is where the fracture begins. Because everything that followed feels like a reaction to losing that simplicity, losing something real. And Harry never hid what that loss did to him. He carried it into courtrooms, into interviews, into every carefully measured sentence that somehow always sounded like a confession hiding in plain sight.
As his marriage to Meghan Markle crumbles. But former close friends of the Duke have told me that Chelsea Davy's decision to have a third child.
A tracking device on her car. Not gossip, not theory. A physical object planted, watching, following, invading, private moments torn open and sold before they were even finished. That kind of pressure doesn't just damage a relationship, it rewires trust itself. It teaches you to doubt everything, everyone. And when that relationship finally collapsed, it didn't end quietly. It ended with headlines that sounded like celebration, as if something had been successfully broken. And here's where it gets dangerous. Harry believed the narrative. Every version of events handed to him, every twisted angle, every manufactured storyline, he absorbed it, accepted it, lived inside it. That's not a small detail. That's the blueprint. Because when someone believes the story they're being sold, they stop questioning who's writing it. Then came the wedding, the moment everyone points to as the beginning of something new. But look closer. Look harder.
Harry has been seeing someone, that he has been seeing another woman, and that he is in love, and that this other woman is in love with him.
Chelsea was there, sitting, smiling, watching, the woman who once represented something unfiltered, witnessing Harry step into something entirely different. And in that single moment, the contrast becomes impossible to ignore. One life walked away from the spotlight, the other walked straight into it with a plan, with a structure, with a strategy already in place. That difference isn't subtle. It's everything. And the cracks didn't wait years to show. They were there almost immediately, hidden in small, almost forgettable moments that only become explosive when you connect them later. Like Paris, a city that carries weight, history, trauma, not abstract, not symbolic, personal.
Unraveling of their truly hysterical claims of a 2-hour near catastrophic car chase in New York City, which saw them comically end up in a yellow cab with a driver who they didn't know.
That fear isn't theoretical for Harry. It lives inside him. It shapes his reactions. It defines his boundaries. So when Meghan sits in the back of a car, filming casually, posting casually, moving casually through a location tied so directly to that trauma, it raises a question that refuses to go away. Was it ignorance or indifference? Because there is no third option, and both answers land badly. The explanation that followed only made it worse. She didn't realize where she was. Think about that. In the one city that matters more than any other in his past, the one place tied to his deepest fear. Somehow, she didn't know, or she did and didn't care. Either way, silence followed. Not defense, not justification, just silence from people who usually have something to say. And silence in a story like this, silence is loud. because this wasn't an isolated moment. It was part of a pattern, a rhythm that repeats itself every time something uncomfortable surfaces. Post, backlash, explanation, reframe, move on. Never accountability, just management.
You're taking a video and doing this right in front of the place where his mother died. So that's the tunnel right there, right? That's it.
And then the calendar starts telling its own story. Not rumors, not opinions, facts, dates, locations, appearances. 1 month is all it takes to see it clearly. Geneva solo, Chicago solo, gala solo, event after event after event alone, not occasionally. Consistently, the empty space beside her becoming louder than any statement ever could be. 40 days, that's the number that keeps echoing. 40 days without Harry appearing beside Meghan. Not a coincidence, not scheduling conflict, a pattern, a deliberate separation hidden behind polite language and modern branding. Two people sharing a postcode but not a presence. And when Harry does appear, it's somewhere else, somewhere familiar, somewhere that still pulls at him in ways he can't fully hide. The explanation sounds reasonable. Security issues, logistics, practical obstacles. But sit with it for a second. The same reason that keeps Meghan away also gives Harry the perfect excuse to leave. Again and again. Flights back, solo trips, quiet returns to a place he claims to have moved on from. But actions tell a different story, because wanting to bring someone somewhere and actually bringing them are two completely different things. And that gap, that quiet, unspoken gap, is where the truth usually lives. Then comes the part people don't like to talk about, the split. Not officially, not publicly, but structurally. Brands divided, projects separated, public identities no longer aligned. Two parallel lives running side by side without ever fully merging. And when the idea of a vow renewal surfaces, it doesn't signal strength. It signals strain, because people don't renew what isn't already slipping. That's the moment everything starts to feel inevitable. Not shocking. Not surprising, just inevitable, because by now the pattern is undeniable. The solo appearances, the empty chairs, the separate agendas, the distance that keeps growing while the narrative insists everything is fine. Because the internet did what it always does. It went hunting. Fast, ruthless, relentless. Names started circulating within hours. Faces pulled into the spotlight without permission. Timelines stitched together by strangers who suddenly became detectives overnight. One image, one party, one shared frame. That was all it took for a media executive to get dragged into the center of the storm. No proof, no confirmation, just momentum. And momentum is dangerous when it doesn't need facts to survive. But beneath that surface chaos, a quieter investigation was unfolding. The kind that doesn't chase headlines, it dismantles them. And the trail that people actually followed didn't lead to a polished executive or a glamorous insider. It led somewhere stranger, somewhere almost embarrassing in its simplicity. A profile, a carefully constructed profile. A woman presented as exactly what someone like Harry might be searching for without even realizing it. Familiar age, soft, approachable image. A life that sounded intentionally uncomplicated. Long walks, no interest in fame, no ambition tied to status, just warmth, just ease, just the illusion of something real. And then the cracks started appearing almost instantly. Reverse image searches pulling apart the illusion piece by piece. A house that wasn't hers, a face that existed somewhere else entirely, a name that triggered warnings across multiple platforms. This wasn't mystery anymore. It was a pattern, a script, the kind that has been run so many times it practically exposes itself the moment someone looks closely enough. A catfish, not sophisticated, not unique, just effective. It becomes impossible to ignore what's left when you strip everything else away. Not headlines, not speculation, just the shape of the life itself. A man in his early 40s, isolated in ways that don't show up in photographs. A house that looks full but feels divided. A phone that doesn't ring as often as it should. A country left behind that still pulls at something deeper than pride will allow him to admit, because America was supposed to be the solution, the reset. The place where none of the past mattered. And for a moment, it worked. Deals, attention, momentum, it all arrived quickly. But attention fades. And when it fades, what's underneath becomes impossible to hide. The partnerships don't hold. The audience drifts. The narrative weakens. And Britain never really let go of what was said on the way out. Words don't disappear just because time passes. They settle. They stay. And when someone tries to return, they are still there, waiting. So now you have a man caught between two worlds that no longer fully accept him. One that feels distant. One that never fully embraced him. And somewhere in that space, the person he used to be starts to feel further away than either place. That's why the smallest details suddenly carry the most weight. The need to deny things publicly that shouldn't need denying. The subtle shift in presence, in confidence, in the way he occupies a room. The quiet observations from people who once knew him well enough to recognize the difference without needing it explained. And then the dynamic shifts. Completely, unexpectedly, the narrative that once revolved around Meghan begins to tilt. Now the attention follows Harry. The rumors follow Harry. The secrecy follows Harry. The same man who once stood behind the story now becomes the story. Flights back to London. Glances over his shoulder. A life that increasingly looks like it's being revisited rather than escaped. And the reaction to all of it says more than the situation itself ever could. No heartbreak, no shock, just recognition. As if everyone watching had already reached the same conclusion long before the rumor confirmed it. Because once people stop asking whether something is working and start asking what comes next, the answer is usually already written. And that's the uncomfortable truth sitting underneath everything. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't unexpected. This wasn't even complicated. It was visible the whole time. A slow unraveling hidden inside carefully managed moments. A distance that kept growing while the image insisted it wasn't there. A story that didn't collapse under pressure. It simply ran out of belief. And now all that's left is the question nobody inside that world seems ready to answer out loud.